was fast. I'm recording.
All right. You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast, and today we have a very special episode. 005 Flesh and Blood came out in 1985, directed by the titular podcast of Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, finally a Verhoeven movie.
This is the first one I was able to find that's streaming. He has a bunch of Dutch films he did before this, but none of them are streaming. I'm pretty sure there's ways we could have found it out, but it wouldn't be convenient and probably weird and virusy or whatever. Yeah, this is his first. I'm not sure, but well, I guess it's his first American release movie, so I'm guessing it's also the first English movie, but I actually don't know.
Well, it had actors. It had American, Australian, and Dutch.
Oh, yeah, it had everybody. Well, even the crew was like 3 different crews. There was a Dutch crew, a Spanish crew, and like a British crew.
And it also was financed from 5 different sources. And a lot of the story was based on a failed or a Dutch TV show about this time period that never got launched that Verhoeven was involved in.
I can't remember. There was something that he made with Rutger Hauer that was like a medieval thing, and this was like technically an offshoot of it. But also, I heard stuff where it's like the Lad Company, the people that made the Blade Runner.
Yeah,
like this was also like a script that was hanging around inside the Lad Company. But then Orion ended up putting it out, which they backed most of it. And as far as I know, it was a huge failure.
Yes.
And despite that, Orion brought him back to do RoboCop. But
Yeah.
although I think maybe RoboCop maybe had like the same or even a lesser budget than this movie did. So
Yeah, this one was like $6 million or something.
Yeah. It's also cinematographer is Jan de Bont, who's like a pretty famous kind of like action director of photography. He did. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember it off. I guess I could pull it up. He did like his first American film. I think it was Cujo, and then he did like, and then also on the list was Leonard Part 6, an infamous movie.
Yes.
He also shot a Zucker Brothers movie that I didn't know was a Zucker Brothers movie because I watched the trailer and I was like, what is this? And it's called like Ruthless People. It was
Okay.
Danny DeVito and Bette Midler in it. Apparently it's awful, but it was a huge success. Whatever.
Yeah.
He also shot. He did not shoot RoboCop, but he did shoot Die Hard. He shot like Lethal Weapon 3. He shot Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
And then eventually he got to direct movies, and then like his 2 most famous directed movies are Speed and Twister.
Yep.
But yeah, they have a long history together. Like they shot like a lot of their Dutch films together, and then Jan de Bont ended up coming over to America before Verhoeven did, and I guess that's RoboCop was a non-union shoot, and that's why Jan de Bont didn't shoot RoboCop.
Oh, okay.
It's written by Gerards, let's see here, Soderman,
Yeah.
and Paul Verhoeven. It's not an ampersand, so they didn't write it together, but I'm pretty sure someone just did a pass, and then like Paul Verhoeven did a pass, and then like, all right, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
So I don't know any of Gerard's stuff. I think he's just another Dutch guy. And it stars Rutger Hauer, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Tom Burlinson, who I didn't know who he was at all. He's just some Australian actor, but he has like a crazy credit that I've never heard of. What is it? The Time Guardian.
Okay. Yeah, he's a Canadian actor, I believe.
Oh, I thought it said it was Australian.
I could be wrong. Let me check. Because he played the guy's son. Well, he was born in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean he grew up there.
Well, the Time Guardian, it's like directed by like a co-writer of the Road Warrior.
Nice.
It's got like Dean Stockwell and
Oh, was that
and
the one Carrie Fisher was in too? Wait a
yeah,
minute.
yeah.
I think I'm remembering this. Okay.
I've never seen it. I've never seen this movie before, but like watching the trailer, it's like, oh yeah, there were just tons of movies like this in the 80s.
Yeah, this guy is actually born in Canada but raised in Australia.
Okay.
So you were right. I thought he was someone else, but then when you said, "Oh, that's that weird one where Carrie Fisher and Dean Stockwell were in," it's like, "Oh, wait a minute, that guy's Australian."
Because it's
Yeah,
like,
and of course, Brian James is in this.
yeah, yeah.
I that guy was like in my childhood. He was always like a heavy in a lot of the science fiction I liked.
And it's a repairing of Rutger Hauer and him too. So
Yes.
and Jennifer Jason Leigh, like she's like, you know her, but I don't know, like looking at her like top stuff in Internet Database, it's like Hateful Eight, and I'm like, is that really like her most popular role? And like, I guess maybe. I think the last thing we saw her in was Possessor.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, she's in a ton of stuff, and I guess she was coming off of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. See, that's my Jennifer Jason Leigh go-to, and then The Hitcher, which was another one.
Oh yeah, bring Rutger Hauer back. Yeah.
Yep. These people all kind of worked a lot because when I think Jennifer Jason Leigh, that I really think, and The Hitcher is not like a great movie, but it's one I will always.
Oh no, I'd say it's pretty good, but it's definitely like a B movie. But like it's great for what it is.
Yeah, and of course she was in Existence.
Yeah,
it's like because she does weird movies.
yeah, yeah.
And I think she was also in what's the one where it's a Stephen King book where everyone's off like the coast of Maine, but they all have British accents because that's actually a real thing. What was that called? It's a woman's name. Dolores Claiborne.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she was in that. But The Hateful Eight, I think she's like number one. It's more recent. Number two, I think she got nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's also like a pretty prominent role in that movie. So
she was also in Annihilation for you Annihilation fanboys out. We can go down that road again.
Yeah, a lot of her roles nowadays are like she's kind of like the manager that's like has to like unceremoniously send people to their deaths without feeling.
Yeah, she has she's done a lot of things. She's going to be the main character in the next Fargo TV series. Whenever that happens, whenever. It's just like there's supposed to be a True Detective coming out. And it's like, yeah, sometime.
Well, I thought those guys were working on the Alien, but that doesn't mean like they could. Doesn't mean they can't work on both. Doesn't mean that everybody's working on both. So.
Yeah, well, it's just like I mean, I'm looking at like this is like 2024 projection stuff, so it may or may not happen.
Yeah.
It seems like a good thing for her though, because like you said, she's like the intense woman who has to do bad things for the right reasons.
Unless she's like looks super young, but she looks like a wrestler I know now. His name's Tony Storm. And I was like, because I was weird. It's like, yeah, it's Jennifer Jason Leigh, but the whole time I was like, who does she look like? And like Jennifer Jason Leigh, no, she looks like a wrestler.
Yeah, this movie I had not watched in a long, long time.
So yeah, like when I mentioned it to you, you said you like knew about it. So I don't know, like, what's your history with this movie?
Well, this is like kind of that because I've probably said, well, I haven't talked about it a lot, but I always like the Conan movies.
Yeah,
because I was always in that stage of my life. I was really into like Tolkien and all that stuff, and it's like there wasn't like a lot to like the sword and sorcery movies, but I did like the Conan movie, mainly the first one. They were all kind of fun, but I liked the first one a lot. And there was some like Excalibur that was out around this time, and that was kind of what you got.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Red Sonja. The Sword and the Sorcerer.
I didn't like that one too much. I don't know why. It's like it's a good movie, but it's this and
Well, no,
then
it's one of those like it was a surprise success, and then like all the critics hated, but I think because like the main hero has a cool sword, it kind of like kids liked it. Kind of like Kroll.
yeah,
like what do you know about Kroll, the weapon from Kroll? Like what's it actually about? It's like I don't know. It's like Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings.
yeah, it's dumb. I like Crawl. It was one of those things. It's like best poster ever, and then you watch it, the movie, and you're like, huh? It's like, okay, I remember the weapon, which doesn't seem like that efficient compared to an arrow or a sword, but it does magic stuff. So
Yeah.
and then what was the other one? Beastmaster. I sort of like that.
Oh, yeah.
But this is kind of that genre of
Yeah.
movies. As a matter of fact, all these movies look like they have the same production studio making them.
Yeah, well, I always assume that these kind of movies are cheap to make because you just go out to like the countryside somewhere, and as long as you have like power to run your gear, it's like, all right, just shoot because no one's expecting you to have like cool sets and everything. You can kind of just use things that already exist, or it's easy to build like makeshift stuff because it's literally made out of sticks and wood. Like, we can do that real quickly. It's stuff's not meant to last forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it made
ton of soundtracks too. It's always the same. Dun, 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 dun. I mean,
there were so many like B movie companies that made ripoffs just like this stuff. Like plenty of Canon Films and Corman stuff did this, and they're probably literally using sets after these films are done. And even weirdly enough, Rutger Hauer did Lady Hawk earlier in this year, which also bombed, and that was a Richard Donner movie.
That's actually a good movie. Yeah. It's not as good as maybe you remember it, but it is pretty good.
Yeah.
This movie, on the other hand, again, I hadn't seen it in probably 18 years or more, and I remember like the son of the Lord was like, oh, he's like a Leonardo da Vinci inventor guy. And he loved the lady that they kidnapped. However, I forgot about all the interstitial gang rape and nudity and horrendous violence that was in this movie, and also the weird, like, just modern English dialogue. Like they weren't even trying. I mean, it would be silly if thou cannot do this. But it's funny.
It seemed like they're trying different things. It seemed like Jennifer Jason Leigh was just herself. And I remember specifically in the bathtub scene, it sounds like she's trying to do some accent.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the medieval hot tub. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're firing cannons and stuff, and this is in the 1500s. Like, okay, maybe.
And then so I try to look up stuff. There's not like a lot of behind the scenes stuff on it. There's a lot of stuff.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of Internet Movie Database trivia stuff, but all that crap you can't really believe. But there's a lot of things about like this is the last time that him and Rutger Hauer worked together, Paul Verhoeven, because they did like 4 movies before this that were pretty successful for a Dutch movie production. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty strenuous, like role for them because I guess Rutger Hauer is like, oh wait, I'm on the come up. Like I need to start doing like heroic roles so I can get better movie deals. And then what was the others? Oh yeah, so I watched, but I did find a Siskel and Ebert at the movies of this.
Oh, I bet you they love this.
Oh yeah, they fucking hated this movie. They didn't come up with one redeeming value for it. Siskel just called it kiddie porn. It's like, oh Jesus.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Jennifer Jason Leigh does look like uncomfortably young, even though she's 23 in this movie. But it's
Well, I knew coming into this is like, well, this is a Verhoeven movie.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, well, it's like topless stuff, and like most of the women in the movie are some kind of prostitute that's just like tagging along with these guys, but they seem to have, as the movie goes on, they have like a more deeper relationships, and then you've got her, the main character, the princess, and it's like. Yeah, it gets really. I know I was expecting Verhoeven, but this is like early '80s, kind of dipping your toe in the water of like, yeah, let's release this in America. It's like I'm sure this was not well received just based on all the sex and nudity. The violence is okay, but
Um, well, also like it got released at the end of August. They released it in limited theaters, and I don't think anybody went to see it then. And like made like $100,000, and it was like I was looking at the box office around the same time, and it was like a re-release of Gremlins and Ghostbusters, like both made like $4 million that the
Oh,
same weekend.
good time to go against that. It's like, well, kids, you want to see Ghostbusters again, or do you want to watch Flesh and Blood?
And also Back to the Future came out like in the July, and it was still like raking in like $40 million a month. So so yeah, not a great time for Flesh and Blood to be received. Oh yeah, Ebert, he hated it, but he said like, I could condone the violence, but the thing I didn't like is he didn't like that there wasn't a clear hero or a villain.
Yeah,
Like
there's no one
just
to really like.
no.
Because the Rutger Hauer character is just a terrible person.
Yeah.
Now, he's true to his character. Like, if he suddenly became heroic and nice, you wouldn't believe that either. But it's like the female and male, the co-leads, which is like, because this was supposed to be like a love triangle between the three of them. It's like, no, she's just his hostage and someone he rapes. Like, that's not... That's her name's Agus, because Rutger Hauer's Martin, and then Agnes, and then Steve, and those are like the three main characters. And Steven's like kind of an interesting. He's like, I want to be a man of science in the Middle Ages, and he's like studied at university and or whatever. And his dad, of course, is like, that's a waste of money. And then he had the mercenary captain Hawkwood, who was like, I thought he was going to be a more prominent character, but.
I mean, he hangs around. I thought he was going to be dead pretty quickly, but
yeah, because he seems like kind of an honorable guy for a medieval mercenary. But
well, I guess he's not technically a mercenary. He's just like a part of the Lord's Guard or whatever.
I thought he was like a mercenary captain. Okay,
no, it's like all the people they turn on. Those are the mercenaries.
Okay,
technically, although I mean, pretty much they're all mercenaries. But
yeah.
But yeah, that was a funny episode of At the Movies, because they start with this thumbs down immediately. Then it's like a movie called White Knight, which is about like dancing and Russian defection.
Okay, I've heard of it.
And then there was like a 9-hour documentary about the Holocaust called Shoah. And so they're like, and they both were like, this is one of the most important movies ever made. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're not if you're seeing that in the same week. And then it caps off with Death Wish 3, which they absolutely hated.
Nice. Oh, that's a rough week for the At the Movies boys.
But it was interesting. Like, Ebert starts off by calling it like the studio doesn't want to be called racist, so they made it an integrated gang so that he could kill them without being claimed to be racist. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting claim.
Oh, the old 80s street gangs where you had to have a white guy, a black guy, a Mexican guy, and then the hero's gonna like gun them down with like a huge gun. It's like, but he's not racist. Yeah, I've heard that about the Death Wish movies, actually. The studio kind of like, yeah, we just can't have them killing black people all the time. That doesn't look good. And this was in the 80s. Like, it's kind of weirdly like foreshadowing.
So start with Act 1. We're in Western Europe, 1501. There's an assault on a castle, which is pretty good from the distance.
Yeah, this movie looks good.
Yeah. There's some priest. Well, actually, no, he's just called Cardinal, so I'm not sure if that's like his position or he's called Cardinal.
Yeah, I don't know if that guy was actually a priest or just some lunatic that hung around with this group of emotionally depraved. They just seem like angry children that were grown men. It's like, yes, kill! Ah!
It's played by Ronald Lacey, who's like the extra nerdy black guy with bad guy with glasses in Temple or
he's one of the guys that gets melted.
Yeah. He's got the hat and glasses that his face melts off.
Yeah, okay. He's been in all kinds of stuff too.
Yeah. I didn't recognize him here at all.
Oh yeah, I did. Well, he's been in a couple of movies like this too.
Yeah. And he's giving communion like in the middle of battle. He's like arguing with some pregnant lady who's one of the prostitutes who sells wine,
Yeah.
Celine. Um, and then like some noble comes by to encourage a charge, and that's the he's not really the king, he's like the lord, but I might refer to him as Arnolfini, which I always forget that name. Although
Yeah. Arnold Feeney.
which if I just remember Gandolfini first, maybe I can get to that. But
Well, this was set in Italy too, right?
yeah. I mean,
Northern Italy.
here it just says Western Europe on the title card, but like everybody says it's supposed to be set in Italy, even though it was shot in Spain. But
Yeah.
and so like apparently like I don't think we got this in the movie, but I read about it lately. Arnolfini was like the lord of this like land in the castle, and then while he was off doing some expedition, like the town like uprose and like pulled a coup and took over the town. So this is him like trying to get his castle back.
Yeah.
Which is probably, yeah, who knows? That probably happened a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it could have. Yeah, when the guys went to the Crusades, that's always like they came back, and I mean, that's like the Robin Hood story.
Yeah. Also, interesting thing I heard, like, what is it called? The survivor, not, yeah, I think it might be the survivors. I can't remember what the limit is. It's I think you ever see that thing of the picture of like it's showing World War II bombers that came back from a bombing raid, and they think they should like armor the areas where the bullets are shot, and it's like, no, you should do the opposite, because the people that were shot in the other areas didn't come back from the bombing raid.
Yeah.
And so something similar they compare it to, where it's, I guess like people think that all castles in the Middle Ages were like stone, but like most of them are actually wood. They just didn't survive to be like documented. Oh yeah, it was an interesting point. Like one of the Paul Verhoeven's thing about this movie is he wanted to show like how brutal like the Middle Ages were. Like he said like nobody died a natural death. You either died of disease or you were killed. There's no like, naturally seeing the end of your life.
Yeah, there's no growing old gracefully.
So we have Martin Rutger Hauer shows up. He just grabs a handful of communion like it was like it was a Doritos bag.
Yeah.
And then just downs it with alcohol, presumably wine, but who knows. He's got like a big giant two-handed sword.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure that's called. I know in some video games they call it a Zweihander, which is just, German for two-handed sword.
Yeah. That's what they're called.
Oh, okay. And then there's a drummer boy that gets called to the front lines. and there's some soldier that doesn't pay his prostitute as he runs off to battle. So and this is pretty much like the mercenary group that we're all getting pictures of.
Yeah.
And then we have Steven, who's played by Tom Bernthal, and he has like this mobile bomb cart, where it's just like it's just like a barrel attached to kind of like a wheelbarrow. Which, like I happen to escape my whole life without being corrected about that, because I always said wheelbarrow, because it's like a barrel holds stuff, right? And then it's gonna put a wheel on it. Is that what it means?
Yeah, cut it in half, put some wheels on it. It's a wheelbarrow. It's barrel. Barrel, whatever.
But I don't think I ever saw like it like written out as barrow, and I just assumed like, oh yeah, it's a barrel.
Yeah.
Anyways, one of those fun mistakes that you hopefully get to avoid your whole life and not make in front of people.
Not a big
yeah.
Not a big social faux pas about the barrow versus barrel argument. It's like, you stepped in it now, sir. Besmirched my honor.
And it's so like he like they pay a guy to run it up to the door to blow up the castle gate, and the guy runs with it, and then Steven sets the fuse off. And at first I thought he was just like some, scientist who just didn't care about people. But here he's like genuinely like, oops, I didn't mean to do that, and blows the guy up because the fuse runs faster than the guy does.
Yeah, the fuse is like dead cord. It's just like instantly.
Which I don't. They do it twice in the movie, and it's like, why wouldn't you just run it to the thing, and then when it's there, then light it? Because the cord's gonna be there where they're not gonna like yank on the cord.
Yeah, they don't understand what it is. It's magic, black magic powder.
Yeah, so there's a ton of things in this movie where I don't know, like I don't know the time period, so it's okay if like they can have all these contraptions because they have like one gun and cannons, and the rest of the movie it's pretty much just swords and stuff.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of interesting weird things. Like, is that a real thing? But yeah,
yeah. I think it was more the story than historical accuracy.
yeah.
Because at one time in the movie, someone refers to it. It's like, oh, it's the bubonic plague. It's like that term wasn't known until like this. I looked it up. It was like this. The 17th century was when they started calling it that. Okay. They did say that the wounds, the blackened weird pustules, they did call them buboes back then, but that's where the term boo-boo came from. So it was meant like an injury to your skin. So I could be totally full of crap on that too, folks. But
Siskel, he brought that up. He says like, they're calling the bubonic plague 2,000 years before that was a term, or 200 years before that was a term.
Yeah.
So.
Because back then it would be known as I think it was called the Plague of Justinian or something, because it started in Rome, but it wasn't widespread until like, I think was it 13th century? I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into this because it's hugely I'll ask my son.
I always fuck up the century thing too, because isn't it, do you think you have to do like -1 to it's like what the actual year is or something?
Yeah. It's just like we were in the 20th century all throughout the 1980s and 90s. But actually, and now we're in the 21st century and it's 20 something. So yeah, you just minus 100 years. It is the century head.
Well, it's how it's like whether you consider like, I don't know, it's like days on a calendar too. I can't remember what I'm thinking about here, but it's like if it's starting from 0 and starting from 1, it's almost like computer counting, because it's like from 0 to 100 is the first century.
Yeah.
So even like 5 AD, it's like the first century, but then from 100 to 200, that's the second century. But most of it's like it'd be the second century. You'd think it starts with 200, but it doesn't. No, they all the way up to 199. It's still the second century. But yeah, well,
that's because you didn't have good dates on things back then either. It wasn't as important.
Yeah.
So people weren't writing things down, or if they were being burnt down in library fires.
Well, it's like also like when like I always remember like it's like an event, so like like this is the 38th event, but it's like the first event in which it appeared is considered like number 1. But like think of it like when you're born, it's like, oh, you're 1 week old, so it's like an event starts at 1, but you start at 0. Anyways, there's a charge at the castle. They break through. Somebody fires off a rifle out of the castle, and this is like, I guess there's one more rifle in the movie, but or some weird handgun.
It's more like a flintlock hand cannon or long arm. Yeah, it's because it needs to be on a stand.
Yeah,
so you can't hold it out. It weighs too much.
And we have Captain Hawkwood like goes up to like stop whoever it is, and he sees the rifle in the window
move. Yeah,
and then he like swings his sword like through like some curtain or whatever. and then like it's a nun, and he like slashed her head open. And now he feels all bad. It's like, we need to save her. And then the town surrenders, and so the raping and pillaging begins, literally.
And the Lord says you have a week to loot the town. Do whatever you want, and then that's your pay. Like in lieu of pay, just murder everyone in the town and steal all their stuff. But then the Lord is like, they're too efficient at this.
Well, there's one part like there's one guy literally raping a woman while like one of the prostitutes and her son, the drummer boy, are stealing like the jewelry off of her.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's really strange. Here, mother. It's like, what?
But also, yeah, they took the town because Arnolfini promised them, like, yeah, if you push forward, like, I'll give you all the gold in the town. Then we have Martin and then it kind of calms down, and we have Martin and Steven are like hang out for a bit, and they seem to be. It's like, yeah, you ever been to war before? It's like, I haven't. It's interesting, right? It's like, yeah, because like Steven's all about like learning new stuff, and Martin's just like, lives the day by the minute.
Yeah.
Then Martin hangs out with like the riffraff, the other mercenaries, as they like celebrate. And there's like a piece of cloth that like burns it into like a noose pattern, and then people think that's a bad omen.
Yeah.
And then like the
I think the bad omen would be the city being burnt down, being stabbed to death. Like that's the omen, but
and then the soldiers,
very suspicious or superstitious back then.
The soldiers like roll out a giant barrel of like, I assume it's alcohol or wine, but it's revealed to be nothing in there. But
yeah.
But it seemed like, yeah, take him to the town square and we'll celebrate with wine. And it's all a ruse. All the mercenaries get lured into the square where it's like under the cover of cannon fire. And here you have Hawkwood is basically like told by Arnolfini to like get the gold back. And so Hawkwood's kind of, he doesn't like this because he's like, well, you told them, you're taking your word back. I don't want to do this because it's like, that's not honorable. And he's just like, well, I'm the Lord, so you got to do this.
Yeah, that chivalry stuff. It's like, yeah, well, when the rubber meets the road, not so much.
So they fire the cannons at him like a bunch of times, and they eventually like give up, and then like they have to throw all the loot on the ground and give up their swords. Except for Cardinal, who like hides a sword away.
Yeah.
Was he also killing people in the raid, or is he just kind
not
of around?
Initially? No, I don't.
Okay.
I think he was there more as a spiritual guide to murder than actually. Later on, though, he takes a more proactive role.
And I have this being the end of Act 1 because they're all like forced away from the city, and they hang a bunch of them, but they don't show that yet. Although there is later on, there's people hanging, but I don't know if it's the same hanging.
Yeah, it seemed to be a lot of like, just like you said, no one dies a natural death here.
But like as they're being forced out, they show off the Arnolfini giving Hawkwood like a bag full of gold and then like a deed to a piece of land.
Yep. So he can take his wounded nun with the open head injury and help her.
Farmer.
Yeah, it's very Cincinnatus, like swords into plowshares.
Also, like the soldiers have like a doctor. It's a doctor, but he's also just like a priest or a father, whatever they call him, father. So, but he's their doctor. It's also always rooted in some religious stuff too, because that becomes a point, like as he learns to be a better doctor by giving up on this religious shortcoming
medicine. Yeah. Oh, somebody's sick and not doing well, let's let half the blood out of their body. This always improves health.
So we have the start of Act 2. We have the outcasts are like the among the ruins of some castle or something. And then Celine's giving birth. The baby's stillborn. Martin like tries to comfort her because like nobody really knows who the father is, but like
it could have been any one of them. Yeah.
But she wants it to be Martin. We also have here it's Cars, who's played by it's like Carth Santham or whatever. But they call him Cars. It's played by Brian James. He's like the only one that's really like he wants to be like her husband or whatever, or main squeeze or whatever. And then but she's like adamant that like you can't just don't bury it in the mud, like put it in a coffin. Is like, yeah, we'll get a coffin made. And then they just like they take the baby away from her and just kind of stuff the baby into a barrel.
Stuff into a wine barrel, and she's just like, don't put him in the mud.
Well, yeah,
they try to say it's like because the child's stillborn, and the one guy's like, yeah, the world's too hard, and this is why. It's hard enough on grown men, let alone babies. And they're like, they nod their head. Instead of her like rampant alcoholism is, the fact that she never eats anything but like weird stuff is like, I wonder why that kid didn't make it. But it's a hard world.
Yeah,
hard.
I mean, it's like on top of all the shocking things you've already seen, here's another thing.
Here's a dead baby that
I mean,
we're gonna stuff into a barrel.
yeah, well, yeah, you see Martin like he's being conciliatory and like trying to comfort her, but like as soon as like she's out of out of eyesight, like all right, stuff the baby in the barrel. Yeah, we did our job, and then we'll just throw it in the mud, just toss it in there. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't want to bury it in the mud, but they have to bury it in the mud, but she's adamant that it has to be like in a coffin. So it's like we met all the guidelines. Here you go.
Yep.
But then the cardinal finds some saint statue in the mud.
Well, they're trying to dig a grave for the baby with like
Yeah.
a sword,
Yeah.
and he like hits something solid, and then they pour water on it to uncover it, and slowly a face is revealed, and it's like a wooden statue of Saint Martin,
Mm-hmm.
the only saint, I guess, with a sword. I didn't look it up, but that's what they said, so I'm gonna assume that's true.
Well, they said something about like the saint used it to cut like his like robe or whatever to like give to somebody who was without or something.
Oh,
like that.
okay,
So,
yeah.
So it wasn't like he was like he wasn't some like God's assassin.
I do this in the name of Christ. And that's off. Now he's a saint, which actually probably happened more than what we think.
But it's the saint that Martin was named after, and so they take it as some sort of sign, and then like the cardinal's like talking of some vision to like either lift people's spirits or it's just like he was hallucinating at the time.
Yeah, probably both. Probably a combination of a few different things.
And then some guy's rightly like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything, and then he just kills. The cardinal just stabs him in the back with sword.
With a sword.
Yeah, the one sword they have. That
One sword.
Yeah. And then Martin swears, like, as they kind of like look upon Martin as the new leader, he swears vengeance for riches. So yeah, it's with the,
And up
the
until this point, like the characters are kind of like rough characters, but it's like we know who our hero character is, and these are just sad guys.
Well, at this point, yeah, like Rutger Hauer's he's redeemable. Like he seems kind of fun. Like you see him just like eating an apple as they're taking the town, and like he's not raping people yet.
Yeah,
he's just fighting people, and like he seems like a fun guy for now. But that's just sort of like the dichotomy of like all these characters. Like none of them are all good, none of them are all bad. So
yeah, they're like real people in that way, but
yeah,
it's just like the path they go down is like I'm kind of like neutral, and then it's like, oh, now I'm just pure evil. Like,
and because we have Steven like building stuff in his workshop because he's just like he wants to be the next Leonardo da Vinci. Or actually, when did Da Vinci exist? Like, was he?
No, this would have been way before this guy. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. His father's like the new king. I don't know, Lord, whatever. He visits, and Arnolfini has like a locket of some princess like he's to be married to. So like they're moving really quick. Like he got his castle back, and now he's marrying him to some other lady.
Yeah.
So to get the fiefdom bigger. And then we cut to Agnes, which is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's the princess. And she's riding in some caravan that's on its way to Arnolfini's castle. And then she's asking some friend, Kathleen, who's played by Nancy Cartwright. And if you recognize that name, that's the voice of Bart Simpson.
Yep.
Who, when I look at this, like, you look at her now and you look at her then, like, here, like, she looks like she's like 25, but she looks like she's middle-aged, and now she looks like she's 65, but she looks like a better looking middle-aged than she does in this movie. It's really weird.
It is kind of
I don't know if that's
thing. Yeah.
I don't know if that's like work done or she just lost weight. I don't know. It's just very weird. It's like I can't believe this is the same person. And she doesn't do any funny voices or anything. Although she is doing like a British accent or something, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, she's like a, what are they called? The people that assisted the princesses. They weren't like maids. They had another name, but yeah.
Oh, is that like Lady in Waiting?
That could be, yeah. It was like the classic version of that silly character.
Yeah.
Because her and Jennifer Jason Leigh are having a talk about sex.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Leigh is the virgin princess. Yeah. And her hand lady or whatever was Lady in Waiting. Yeah. she's like telling her, it's but in vague terms, like,
Yeah.
because it's not something that was discussed back then, especially with like nobles. And so then Jennifer Jason Leigh makes her go have sex with the soldier that she's been seeing, her
Yeah.
lady in waiting, and
So she can get some pointers.
yeah, so she can watch from the woods like a weirdo. And then once the act is started, then she comes out and starts beating the guy with the stick, like stop, stop. Which is it's like it's a whole weird scene.
Yeah, because then she starts tackling Kathleen and rolling around while she's half naked, and then they're laughing. I'm like, what is this scene? Is she
Yeah,
mad? Are they angry? Are they happy?
are they about to awaken lesbianism? What is going on here?
I mean, it's actually like good for Agnes the character, because then it's like, oh, she's not pure good. She has evil in her also.
Yeah, she's gonna hit her maid with a stick.
For doing
Okay, now
something
tell
she
me
told
what
her
happened.
to do.
Tell me what was happening. Well, I watched from the woods like a weirdo.
That's how you watch porn in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, that's middle-aged porn. You instruct a vassal to go and pick a man and have sex with him, and I'll observe, because it's not a sin to watch.
Then we have Arnolfini and Steven meet Agnes. Steven's mad because he feels like he's being set up, because it's like, hey, we're gonna go hunting, and then it's like they're not hunting. This is what they're doing.
Yeah, because he's like, his dad's like, we're gonna hunt with falcons, and he's like, oh, falcons, let me get out of my workshop, and then it's like, no, it was a ruse. You can meet this beautiful woman that you're gonna marry. Oh, father, this is terrible.
And then Steven runs away, and then Agnes gets on a horse and chases after him. And then they kind of talk like on top of the horses, and Steven claims like a wife would be a distraction from his scientific work.
Yeah.
And so then she runs away, and then he chases her, and they end up under a tree of like where people have been hanged.
Yeah.
And she digs up
they're
some
hanging there.
Yeah. And decaying.
Yeah.
And she digs up some root, which is I guess to say it's a mandrake, which I don't know. Is like that a real thing, or is there some?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Okay. And it's like underneath one of the dead guys, and they eat it for good luck, to say like, like this will be eternal love.
Well, because they say like mandrake grows wherever people are hung.
Yeah.
And if you eat the root, which like they made the root look like a human figure, it's like they do kind of look like people, like, because it's basically a radish essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, if we eat the root here, we'll love each other forever. And so he goes along with it. So they eat something out of the ground that's hanging below a decaying corpse. It's like, oh, I'm in love now. It's like, wow, the Middle Ages was a weird time.
And then Kathleen did the whole like put his hand on your breast, and so he can feel your heartbeat thing. And so she tricks him into falling for her, and they kiss. Which seems like the most genuine thing in the movie. It's like, okay, this is lighthearted and not horrible, so
yeah,
I'll probably be the last.
This is kind of a funny romp. It's like the weird scene of, just like falling in love with your soon-to-be bride under the hanging tree is sort of strange.
Yeah, I like that. It's a nice moment that's just completely ruined by the surroundings.
Yeah. And they're totally like in the moment, like,
yeah,
this is not unusual to see corpses hanging from trees.
Yeah, this is hope in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. We're not dead. Look. We're going to make it.
Then we have some monks that are like chanting on the hillside, but it's a Martin ruse. It's the mercenaries, and the caravan starts giving alms to the poor, which they sit on those alms for the poor, and they throw money at them. And then Martin reveals himself to Stephen, and they ambush the caravan. Celine spears Arnolfini in the chest with like a spear.
Yeah.
Because that's how you spear things, with a spear. I can spear at different things. There's a weird spear at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And then Martin and his gang steal the caravan wagons. But Agnes is still in one of the caravans, but they don't know it. So they steal all the riches and Agnes, but they aren't aware of Agnes at the time. And Kathleen, the lady in waiting, gets killed and dies. So she's gone for the rest of the episode. Then we cut to Hawkwood, and he's farming with his brain-damaged nun, Clara. And then Steven's there. And this is where Steven is, like, probably at his worst, because he's like, yeah, I'm retired. I did all the stuff you told me to. And, like, I have, like, you know, I got to take care of her for the rest of her life because I feel bad. Like, this is my penance. And then he's like, no, you gotta, like, you're the only one good at this war stuff. You gotta get Agnes back. And so they basically, like, blackmail him, that say they're gonna stick his Clara in like some sort of mental ward or whatever the equivalent is at the time.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't work for them, so he reluctantly goes along with them. Clara gets mad at Steven and, like, kind of attacks him for a bit and then goes into a seizure. Yeah, and that's when they tell him, like, yeah, like, we'll go put her in an asylum if you don't come with us.
Well, in Arnolfini, the Lord is riding around on a horse, but in some kind of frame that holds
yeah.
He's got the cripple frame for the Middle Ages.
And here he's probably gone for the rest of the movie, which is interesting because there is a thing early on where Steven's like aiming to fight, and he's like, no, we don't do that stuff. We send the other people to die. We don't go out there in front of everything. Yeah,
war. He has some great quote like, "War is interesting to watch but not participate in," or something like that. It's like, yeah, you're right.
and that's kind of like, at first it's like that's what makes Rutger Hauer's character seem like he's the hero at first, because the villain is Arnolfini.
Yeah.
But he disappears in the rest of the movie because he doesn't get his hands dirty.
Yeah, he's riding around his horse on his frame.
And then basically, you don't know it yet, but it's like Steven becomes the hero, sort of, and Martin becomes the villain, but, like, that doesn't necessarily happen just yet. Martin's gang celebrate like at night. Like they have, you know, they're throwing around all their spoils and drinking.
Yeah, they're at murder camp. Celebrating.
They take on, like, a red color as their gang color. And then Martin finds Agnes, and she has, like, a handful of gold, and she's like, it's like, here's some money if, like, you just keep me safe. And then the gang start harassing her. Then they strip her and rape her, or get close, or I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, it ends up being just Martin that rapes her, which is all kinds of weird because everybody's holding her up while he does it. Yeah,
this isn't a private thing. Like, everyone's watching and they're chanting it.
Yeah. And then, but, like, Agnes does something where she, like, pretends that she likes it, but it has, like, a defense mechanism, and that throws Martin off. And then because, like, as he, like, kind of throws her, it's like, all right, everybody has a turn next. And then he, like, kicks a piece of fire to, like, set the camp on fire intentionally, so it distracts him from raping her.
Yeah.
So that's just, like, his, like, it's like, I am bad, but I'm not that bad, but I'm not gonna, like, tell them no, so I have to be sneaky about it. It's very weird and multifaceted scene that's very uncomfortable. So.
Yeah, it's not. I was like, okay, let's get past this.
Yeah.
I really can't riff on that scene too much because it's just like, it still wasn't really fun. It was weird. It established things about Agnes, like, well, when her back's against the wall, she'll manipulate people in a certain way. Like, she understands that, which becomes kind of the core of her character after that.
Yeah.
Where she's just always trying to play one of these guys against another to survive.
Yeah.
Which is believable.
Yeah.
But.
And we cut, there's like I think, like, Hawkwood's, like, all knighted up and, like, going on about his mission. And there's a funeral procession for a plague victim. They have, like, some weird, like, noise box that's just making clicking sounds as they turn. I was like, I didn't look it up, but I was like, I've never seen that before. I was like, is that a real thing or something?
I don't know. It might be. They did a lot of weird stuff in the Middle Ages, but it sounded like one of those, like those toys you give a kid, like they swing them around. It's like, wow, wow, wow. It makes that little rattly sound.
But then they get a clue on where Agnes is because one of the ladies has, like, her dress, but it's like a tattered dress, and she just kind of has, like, pieces of it on her.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, we just found it in some abandoned place. Also, like the lady that has it, like her tongue was ripped out because some guy raped her and cut her tongue out so she wouldn't say who it was. Just adding on how horrible the Middle Ages were. Because this seemed close. I mean, especially the stuff at the time. I mean, like Conan the Barbarian. It's not like anything's nice there, but there was a lot of like medieval, like whimsical stuff where it's like nothing bad happens in the Middle Ages.
Well, it seemed like in Conan the Barbarian, there was civilization. Like there was a bar you went to talk about getting jobs, and there was like a castle you robbed, but there seemed to be like a framework where this is just Mad Max. It seems like you just go around and kill people and take their stuff, and then
but then I think Martin and the gang are just following. They have the caravan out, and they have like the statue kind of like roped to the St. Martin statue, like roped to one of the wagons, and they're just like following it. But I think Martin's manipulating. I think there's a rope on it. He just like pulls it and like does he do that intentionally, or does that just accidentally happen?
No, he's trying to stop one of his guys from raping Agnes in the back of the.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
So he pulls up on the horse, so the wagon stops suddenly, and people fall out, and the statue of Saint Martin moves, and the priest is like, it's or whatever, the cardinal, whether he's an actual clergyman or not, we don't know. But it's pointing in a certain direction, and Martin's of course like, we'll go that way. It's pointing to the castle. Not the castle from the beginning, but a different castle.
Yeah, just a different castle in the countryside. So they take the castle by night by like rappelling up the castle. I don't know the right word for that. I know when you rappel,
shoot an arrow with a rope on it.
Yeah,
and it has a grapple. Yeah, and he's able to climb into the castle, and then they send Agnes up because it's like she's been in a castle before. She'll know the layout. It's like because they're all the same, right?
But like the crawling up, it's like you wouldn't be like rappelling's going down. What's the opposite? Is that like impelling or something?
I don't know. Rappelling and
that's why it's
opposite for that.
I just wrote rappelling up. Well, it's because like when you look it up, like you do dictionary works, it's like repel is like to make go away. So it's like, oh, okay, that's not really what I'm looking for here. But
ascend as they ascend,
into
the tower.
Yeah. They shoot an arrow with like a lighter string on it to get it like over like kind of like the teeth of the castle head, and then pull the rope over that, and then like people are holding on to the rope on the other side as they climb up it on the front side.
Seems risky.
Yeah, but it's a neat like thing. But also apparently no one's standing guard. But then the neat thing is like they go in, they sneak in through the chimney while it's like on fire and like smoking meat and stuff. I was like, okay, that's neat. Then like when they hop out of there, they kind of stumble upon the coals and like spit out fire, and so like people are like, demons are coming for us.
Yeah, because they're dressed all in red and
And so Agnes is like basically fully on board. It's like, well, I guess I'm a mercenary now. And they're like in the room. There's like some lady and there's like some girl on the bed who has like the plague.
Yeah.
But they get chased away by guards. But they get to the gate, and so Martin opens up the gate, and then on the other side is the mercenaries, and so as he goes up, they basically somehow get the upper hand and basically kill all the guards inside the castle. And presumably just kill everybody inside the castle except for some people that make them like make dinner, and like basically if they can make a good dinner they'll be alive. But like by the end of the movie, like there's only the mercenaries are left. I don't know if there's like supposed to be other people inside the castle by the end of the movie, but here there's still some people about.
Now remember the nun that was I don't know if it was a nun or a doctor, the lady that was taking care of the little girl with the bubonic plague, like she jumps with the girl off the side of the castle.
Yeah, which Agnes is trying to tell him not to jump. It's like, no, we're good, we won't kill you. And then that lady dies, and I assume the girl died, but then she ends up crawling away.
Yeah. And she has the bubonic plague.
Yeah. yeah, so Martin has the survivors make him a feast in exchange for their lives. Celine and Agnes like butt heads on over the affection of Martin. Here we have Agnes shows Martin how to eat with a knife and fork. It's like, okay, I guess that would be unique for the time.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, because one of the ladies is like hands were made before forks. You can do a lot more with them. Ah, it's why one of the ladies said that.
yeah, Celine said that. I think. And then Agnes plays footsie with Martin's crotch, and I was like, is this the first instance of that happening in a movie?
I'm not sure. Yeah, because she had like moved the codpiece aside with her toes.
Yeah,
It was a very deliberate scene.
but it's like in tons of movies, and I'm like, is this the origin?
This where it started. It's Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah. Because I mean, they put it in it's in tons of things. It's like it's oftentimes put in comedies and stuff too. But I can't remember what it is. Is it like? Is it Hot Shots? I can't remember. There's a movie with like Martin Sheen, and it's like a kind of a Zucker brother movie where basically everybody is like putting their like foot in his crotch.
Oh yeah,
Like they even have like a dog's paw come in.
Yeah.
I can't remember which movie that is. But yeah. So I was just wondering, like, if this is the first instance of that, because it became such a. You don't see it nowadays, but I don't know. That probably still exists in some movie.
Yeah.
Then they have the rest of the crew are struggling to eat with a knife and fork, and then we have Martin and Summer fighting over Agnes because they're like, who gets to have sex with her in the hot tub? But Martin gets the upper hand, and so Martin and Agnes go off to the bath together. They have more conventional sex in a less uncomfortable way.
Yeah, it's still weird because you don't know
Yeah.
how old this girl's supposed to be.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like a teenager or something, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons that Verhoeven cast her, because she was in her 20s, but she looked like she was a teenager. So yeah, but tons of full frontal nudity in this. So.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, everything you hear about like Jennifer Jason Leigh's side of it, like she never felt like she was being taken advantage of. Like it's like, no, that's the character. So she apparently was just okay with all this stuff. She didn't think like she was being taken advantage of.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like, that's the character. Like this is her survival mechanism. So, and then we have another scene where Hawkwood finds the child that survived the fall. She says the devils from the chimney killed him, and then she dies. But then like Hawkwood
he grabs her and gets her blood on his hand.
Yeah. There's like pus from the sore, and he like wipes it on his face almost weirdly. It's like, it's hot out here. Let me rub some pus on it.
It's cooling pus.
There's also a sad thing because like I think Steven's there, and he's like, it's like I don't think she walked that far because there's not like a scratch on her foot, which means she crawled by hand the whole way.
Yeah, it was kind of a throwaway line. It's like, yeah, her legs are probably broken, even though that woman cushioned her fall a little bit jumping off the castle.
Yeah, because I can't remember if she like gets up and gets away or if she like crawls away.
I remember her crawling.
Yeah.
So.
We have the gang hanging out at the castle again. We have Car Stands. That's Brian James. He's mad at Martin because he's wearing white with Agnes. And he was like, I thought we were the red gang. What's going on here? They have a sing-along with a hurdy-gurdy. Which I'm not sure if they existed at the time, but they could have existed if somebody designed it.
Yeah, for this movie, they existed.
The drummer boy spots horses in the distance, and so they kind of duck out of view. They have Agnes like kind of stand atop the castle, so she speaks to Stephen. We have Hawkwood. He's like succumbing to the plague. Plague is very. It just like strikes whenever the plot needs it to. So.
Yeah, the plague is very random in this. Sometimes it acts like a slow-moving disease. Sometimes it acts like cyanide. It's just whatever you need it to be.
Yeah. The gang taunt Steven, and then Agnes, like they throw fruit at him, but Agnes like stuffs her locket with the picture of him in it, and then she like carves a heart on it and then throws the orange at him, and then he he gets it, and then like as she's leaving, she kind of makes like a part on her chest kind of motion. It's like, no, come get me. Like I'm just pretending to be one of them. And we have Hawkwood dying of a plague, and like the fence is like the father's trying to take care of him. He's arguing with the father, saying that like, hey, I read this thing in an Arab text that speaks of like lancing the boils will help the disease, and he's like, no, that's blasphemy. And then he just like shoves a scalpel in like his arm to bleed him.
Yeah.
It's like which is very disgusting.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just like a medicine.
And then he just like takes a giant pool of blood and just throws it in the ground where a dog laps it up. So
yeah.
And then the soldiers are building something, but you don't know what it is yet. We have Agnes and Martin like set up they're like talking about like, you know, basically the plot of the movie. It's like where they're like, it's either you or Steven. It's like, who's it gonna be? And she's like, winner takes all. So she just makes it a competition between the two of them. Which I think like the original setup for this movie, where what Verhoeven wanted out of it, he wanted to be like Martin and Steven were like friends at the beginning, but then they're enemies towards the end. Like that's what the movie wanted. But I guess Orion wanted a romance between the three, and it's like the most awkward romance ever devised for, for film.
Yeah, it's just Verhoeven like, yeah, I'm taking your notes. We're gonna make some changes. You're gonna get romance, all right.
And then we come back. I think it's night, and Hawkwood stumbles out of the tent, and then he grabs the dirty scalpel and he starts lancing his wounds on his own.
That's got to be fun.
Which I guess I was like Verhoeven balking at that scene, because that was like done under darkness, so you didn't see the detail, because he felt like that was too much to detail lancing the boils.
We've gone too far here.
Then it's morning, and the soldiers like wheel up some war machine that's like an armadillo like of wood.
That's actually straight out of Da Vinci. It's called the Turtle.
Oh, okay. The gang are like hitting it with fire arrows, but they're saying it's not catching on fire, even though it kind of is.
Yeah, it's not disabling because they used wet wood to build it.
That's true.
I'm assuming. Well, I don't know. It just doesn't catch on fire for reasons.
Well, it doesn't just burst into flames.
Right.
Yeah, whatever resin they were using to hold it together. And some horses just like race out the back of it, and then the horses running away are like powering the machine on the inside. I'm like, what are they doing? And it's like, Roger Ebert called it like they made like a medieval ladder bridge from like a fire truck.
Yeah. That's where it goes too far. It's like, that's very imaginative, but they didn't have they wouldn't be able to do that back then. And it would also be very easy to defeat. It's like, oh, here's the one ladder. It's at the top of this tower. Let's everyone wait at the top of the ladder and start stabbing anyone who comes out of it, because it is sheltered from arrows. Like they built like a kind of a thing around it, but it's like, yeah, you just stab your way through the guys that are coming up the top. But they don't even bother to do that.
And this scene, I should tell you, it's a very languishing scene. Like it takes almost 20 minutes. They hold on, like they spent the money here, so they're gonna show it off.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff, but it doesn't. I mean, the ultimate reveal, it's like, oh, you built a mobile ladder. Okay.
It's a little ladder truck for a fire engine.
And I guess like Verhoeven wanted to show off more, but I guess it was too dangerous for production to have like more than like one person on the ladder at a time. So he wanted to have the thing absolutely full with people, but he couldn't do that. And then Martin like counters the turtle by having the. Apparently, like in the meantime, they made one of the rolling bombs from the beginning of the movie that like
it was laying around, even though it wasn't related to anything. Totally different castle, but it's like, it's here. Let's use it.
Or presumably they made it, but I don't know. So they just went, that's a good idea. Make one of those just in case. Which I'm not sure if this would have meant for, because I mean, technically, Steven says that was made for like blowing up a castle gate, but so he runs that in here. Here they get the timing right. He puts it inside the turtle. The cars lights the fuse without blowing up Martin, and then it blows up the turtle, which knocks everything down and basically kills everybody. We don't see the fate of Steven, and the rest of the gang just run out there and kill all the people that are like either on fire or dying from like whatever concussion blast, whatever kind of injury they got from a concussion blast. So,
Yeah.
And Steven maybe got away, and then the Cardinal sees some imagery of like kind of like a halo on fire like behind Martin, and so he takes that to be like, okay, Martin's like the way of God. And I have that being the end of Act 2, because if I'm saying that Steven's the hero, that's him at his lowest point.
Yeah.
You know, the whole attack went wrong, and so we have Act 3, and we have a soldier that crawls back to Hawkwood. You know, he tells him that it went wrong, and so Hawkwood immediately just like has an idea, and he kills the diseased dog. It's like, we're gonna use this disease to our advantage. Talking to the dog.
Now healed now.
yeah, you just had to get the boils off, and you're good. Yep. No poison in your system left.
Pop, pop, pop.
And then the gang are like watching a shadow puppet show, like as they celebrate their victory. And then like a branch falls down. They find Steven in a tree, and so they yank him down. Agnes tries to help, but she doesn't want to do it too obviously, because she wants to pretend that she's still on their side, because she doesn't know how Steven's gonna help her out of it by himself. So she kind of like hangs back, and so they chain him up, call him a dog,
and then use him for target practice.
Yeah, like Carr shoots him in the hand with an arrow. And then Martin wants Agnes to shoot Steven with a gun, and they have a weird like wheel lock flint pistol thing or something. But before the gun fires, just a piece of dead dog meat flies on the gun. And Hawkwood and his crew are launching dead dog meat over the castle to try to infect them with the plague. And then Martin has like some weird offset fork with like burning like candles or whatever on it.
It looks like a weird, like a Roman candelabra.
Yeah, but it has like a weird bend to it, because then he like puts it on the end of the castle, and he uses like the leverage to like launch it at the catapult.
Yeah.
I was like, is that thing real? Is that what it's meant to do? It's like, I don't know, it was weird and interesting. So so yeah, they kind of, and they like launch the last of the dog meat and kind of like run away as I think the catapult's burning, or I can't remember, or they just run away.
Yeah, they ran out of dog to throw.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they threw like a whole haunch. Because they really like cut that dog up, but the pieces that land are like look like that dog.
Well, I think the head lands somewhere, so they know it's a dog. But
yeah.
And then Steven warns the gang that the castle is infected with plague, and then like all the gang just want to leave to like not have to deal with it. And then Martin says like, no, we can't leave. This castle's ours. And so he says to burn the meat in their clothes. And so yeah, they all get naked as they burn the clothes and the meat, and then they taunt. And then Martin like taunts Steven with a naked Agnes, like kind of like kissing on her and stuff like that, and then getting behind the silk screen and having sex with her.
Yeah, another weird scene like that.
Yeah, the hero, everybody. But Steven finds some dog meat that they didn't get, and he's able to like throw it in the drinking well. And then it's the next morning, and they're like, everybody's at breakfast, and they get water from the well. And then Steven told her like that the well is poisoned, so it's up to her to like whether to tell them or not, because she can either save them all or wait for them all to die. So, and she is conflicted about what to do. And so she lets like almost everybody drinks the poison water, but she keeps Martin from drinking the water, so that's kind of her limit. Then we have Orbeck, who's played by Bruno Kirby. If you remember him, he's like the stuck up boss for Robin Williams and Good Morning Vietnam.
Okay. Yeah, I
He's
knew
a-
I recognized him from some things.
I mean, he's kind of like a almost Joe Pesci esque. He kind of has that kind of voice. He plays a lot of Italian American roles. He's been here the whole time, but this is kind of like his first like. That was the first time he has like a big line, because he's yelling at Martin. Because he's like, yeah, we could have left and now we're doomed. And then we have Celine is like vomiting to death, but she's not dead yet. She still has like, I don't know, like 10 more minutes of vomiting and then dying.
Yeah.
And we have the gang turn on Martin and they throw him in the well, and then the gang leave him there. Martin has the key to the lock on Steven's neck, and they kind of like bargain to each other. And then Martin like magically throws the key to like the top of the well.
Yeah, it just lands perfectly on the lip of the well.
But Steven can't get to it. Then we have the Cardinals like self-flagellating himself. Where you just whip yourself in the back.
Yeah.
As the gang gets ready to leave, so they're just like gathering up all the valuables. The drummer boy is like getting sick and he's like developing lesions. The gay couple leave the castle first. That's like Orbeck and Meal.
Yeah.
But then Orbeck starts developing sores, and so he's like all weakly now. And then there's a storm. The storm starts.
Yeah, some really special effects. Some real special lightning effects.
Somebody dropped I think it was Orbeck or whatever, or Meal. They dropped like a gold cross, and Steven uses the gold cross to throw it at the bucket above the well to make the bucket go down, so Martin could crawl back up. And then Hawkwood gets reinforced by Arnolfini, so he's back and he just brings a bunch of soldiers for like this is like their last push.
Yeah.
And Martin's about to release Steven, but he doesn't. And he like runs away, and he sees the soldiers at the castle gate, and he closes the gate. And then Martin goes and gets Agnes and just kind of locks her away.
Yeah, he locks her in a closet or something.
Cars watches Celine die, and like he's kind of the only person that really cared about her. So, and then Martin shows up, and I guess they all decide that they should join forces again. The soldiers start breaking down the gate. Steven's like trying to break the chain with a tree, and then the tree gets hit by lightning and like electrocutes him for a bit, and then the chain breaks, and then he's like kind of like is flustered for a bit but moves on. It's like, he should probably be dead. But whatever.
Yeah, those chains should be like glowing red hot, and he should be dead. Like, how many joules of energy just got poured into those? But it's a movie.
Well, I thought he was just using the tree as leverage to try to break the chains, but then I read something that's Paul Verhoeven saying like it was kind of ridiculous that he was intentionally wrapped the tree to get struck by lightning to melt the chains. I'm like, wait, that was your intention of what he was doing? That was the stupidest thing ever.
I just saw it as like, oh, God has weighed in on this.
Yeah.
Steven's free because he's the man of the future, the science man. I never thought that like, oh no, he's trying to do like, Benjamin Franklin's lightning trick to free him. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Okay, whatever.
So Steven is free, and so he starts setting stuff on fire. He makes like some kind of like rocket spear.
Yeah,
and kills Summer with it. Then he lets the soldiers in. Cars gets speared to death. You don't see him die, but he takes like 5 spears to the chest, and they just so it's like, well, he's got to be dead.
Yeah.
Like Orbeck and Meal are like running away. Orbeck dies of the plague, and I guess because Meal, they were lovers, so he commits suicide by like pulling a sword out and running into a wall with the sword. It's like,
well, first he sees the horsemen in the main keep of the castle. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I'm not fighting these guys. I'm just gonna do the old running into a sword facing my body into a wall trick. Like, that doesn't seem like, well, I guess the forms of suicide you would have access to at that point, that'd probably be the best one.
I think Paul Verhoeven says like the gay couple are the only people that were like had the most honor in the whole movie because they like cared for each other.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They stuck around till the end.
Yep.
Um,
You're not going to go to hell alone. I'll be there with you.
Martin lets Agnes out and he like chases her around with a sword, which I don't know if he's like trying to kill her or if he's just trying to scare her or something.
Yeah, that was a weird scene because like he opens the door with a dagger and then holds a sword on her.
Yeah, and
Like,
then she
like
just
she's
runs.
gonna pop out and like swing an axe at him or something weird. It's like, okay, I don't know what this is all about. I guess it's to show that he doesn't trust her.
Yeah. Cardinal tries killing Steven with a candlestick holder.
Yep.
And then Steven drops the Saint Martin statue on the Cardinal and kills him. So that's
Yeah, I saw that one coming. I was like, yeah, this is how this guy's gonna die. What if he melted? It's like, whoa, weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weirdly reminiscent of like the bar scene that's on fire in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
So it's like
When he melts this thing onto his hand trying to grab it. Yeah.
Then we have Martin is like choking Agnes with like a bedcloth. I'm not sure if it's silk or whatever. He's just kind of holding it over her face. And then Steven interrupts that to choke Martin with chains that he still has on him. And then Agnes like comes to, and then Steven and Martin are like fighting in the bathtub.
Yeah, it's fighting in the hot tub.
And he's kind of like it's like Martin uses the kind of like the advantage of like still getting choked by the chains, but he's using the water to drown Steven at the same time. So then he lets off the chains. But then Agnes comes up and breaks like a very like green flask over his head.
Yeah, very, very like alchemy looking flask.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, does that have acid in it or something? Or quicksilver, which would be mercury. Yeah.
No, it was either like meant to be like showing him bleeding or just had wine in it. I'm not sure, or both.
Yeah.
And so Martin like passes out and like goes under the water, and they just kind of walk out of there. It's like, wait, is he just gonna just unceremoniously die and be drowning in the tub? So then Steven and Agnes are trying to get out of the castle, but the castle's on fire now. Hawkwood shows up and gets Steven and Agnes out of there. And we see Martin kind of like stumbling amongst the castle, and then like fiery debris falls on him, or at least you think it does.
Yeah.
And they get outside the castle, and Agnes and Steven kiss, and it seems very genuine. The father has now learned that Lansing Boyles was saving people rather than just like bleeding them profusely. So he's learned that. Agnes spots like Martin in the background. He's like somehow survived. He's just like has a like
sack of loot.
Yeah. And then she's like distraught for a moment, like, oh, well, she's like, she still has weird feelings for him somehow, even though she just tried to kill her, but she decides the best thing to do is just not let Steven know that he's still alive. So she does that, and they leave.
And then one of the other prostitutes is with the Hawkwoods company.
Yeah.
Like, she's fine.
Well, then they're like about to rape her, but they take her away. So
yeah. Well, she's laughing too. It's like, what do you men want? She's a prostitute. She's surviving the way prostitutes do at that time.
Yeah. And then so everyone left alive leaves the burning castle, and then Martin's the last one to walk off amongst the ashes with his bag of goodies. And that's the end of the movie.
Yep, and that's it. And no, what did we learn? It's like, well, Martin basically was doing what he was doing at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Just a looting freelance.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure if I would have gone back and like wrote down all the things that all the things the Cardinal said, I'm pretty sure this like probably weirdly like lines up. Like this was the genie wish version of what the Cardinal was thinking of.
Oh, okay. You will have all the loot you can carry. It's like everyone will die and you'll be like almost drowned and lit on fire, but
Yeah. But yeah, interesting, but definitely a Paul Verhoeven movie.
Oh yeah.
I think when you compare it to these other kind of medieval movies, like this sticks out, and it's like, oh yeah, this is probably, even though there's a lot of things like, did that exist at the time? This is probably more spiritually accurate to the time than all the other movies are.
Yeah, this is a grim movie. I mean, it's called Flesh and Blood. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Actually, like, I think that one of the original titles is like the Butcher of God, which that's a great name too.
Oh yeah, I'd go with that one immediately. God's Butcher.
But yeah, it's an incredibly uncomfortable movie, but it's still well done for what it is.
Yeah, like I said, it looks great. The dialogue's weird. The acting's good. Nothing seems out of place. It just kind of takes, again, this is one of those movies that took me back to the old sword and sorcerer movies of that era.
Yeah.
It's definitely stuck in the 80s. It has that contemporary, weird, kind of upbeat, poppy electronic soundtrack, which they were experimenting with, which like all these movies had some version of, except Conan. Conan had like the Anvil of Crom. They actually like played that as a like that was actually an orchestra that did that. But yeah, the Conan movies, especially the first one, had a lot more quality in them than what you would think. It's just they were kind of limited by a budget.
I mean, I think the only thing in like the Conan movies that was weird is like the very rubbery snake transformation thing. That's like everything else is totally fine.
Yeah, they were just showing the limits of the budget and the technology at the time. And
yeah.
So yeah, this is in the vein of those movies, but no magic here.
No.
Except for the magic of despair.
But yeah, not unsurprising that this was a box office failure.
Yeah, I don't know who like, hey, let's go see this in the theater.
Although it is weird that him and Orion still work together and they did RoboCop next. That this does not seem like, oh yeah, we're gonna follow this up with RoboCop.
Yeah.
Something that is like of its time and equally not positive of the future. Like there's
dystopian. This is very dystopian Middle Ages, and RoboCop's a very dystopian future.
Yeah, but like everyone loved RoboCop and nothing. So.
Well, RoboCop didn't make you uncomfortable really at any point.
I mean, there's some excessive violence. That's
RoboCop's gory, but it's not.
But there's less there's less weird sex stuff in RoboCop. So
yeah, the interplay between the characters does not seem damaged, other than like, well, this guy was basically blown apart by criminals that put back together as a machine.
Yeah,
who exacts a bloody revenge, though technically is still operating within his parameters.
But yeah, no, I've never seen this before, so I didn't know what to expect. So when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is a Verhoeven movie. So.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it is of the type. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was, remind me of watching movies over and over and over late at night. That brought me back to the, because this is before they had a coherent Lord of the Rings that you could watch the movie. I mean, they had that weird rotoscope stuff, which was like it's like, well, it's here, but so this is what you were stuck with, and it was weird and fun in its own way.
And then
I don't know how much fun this was.
That's the thing. This isn't fun at all, really. And it kind of throws you off because in the beginning it looks like it's going to be kind of fun because Rutger Hauer immediately is like, oh, here's guys just grabbing a load of communion, just woofing it down. It's like, oh, let's take the castle. And then like pretty much like 2 minutes later, somebody's being raped and stolen from like by a kid.
Yeah, it's
and his mother and some weird dude.
Yeah, it's definitely a little jarring.
And definitely different
movie. I was just like, like Time Bandits was another like fantasy type movie that kind of had these sort of little better production value than this, but yeah, it's all kind of had this look. This is like this dark world that we have to run through. But it was Time Bandits was a lot more comedic than this. There's no comedy in it at all.
I mean, a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff is. There's different things that the characters do that's like, well, that's kind of funny, but then 3 seconds later, something awful's happening.
Yeah.
Well, I just forgot about that. So, Don't watch this with the kiddos, folks.
No.
Adult movie.
Let's say. Oh yeah, apparently Paul Verhoeven also had a really hard time with this movie because he wanted to do something different. So one of the things he did different is like, yeah, I'm just gonna shoot off the cuff, so I'm not gonna storyboard anything. And apparently that was just a nightmare for production.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? Well, we're all here.
So I guess he never did that again.
Yeah. I mean, this had, with the cast they had, this could have had the seeds of not greatness, but definitely better than what it was. But yeah, you could tell there was a lot of like, it did seem like a rushed movie in some ways.
I remember like, well, I saw Paul Verhoeven was compared. He wanted to basically make like a kind of a medieval Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen that movie, but I hear it's basically like almost like just a violent dystopic Western movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
it's a great movie. I mean, you can tell like, oh, well, this is where, what's his name? Quentin Tarantino and people like that is like, yeah, this is kind of in that whole universe of thought.
Because I kind of missed all that. Is that Sam Peckinpah that did that?
Yeah.
That's kind of his style of just like unhinged violence and nobody's a good person.
And people are a lot of dialogue being yelled at the same time. Sam Peckinpah films are great. They're all very watchable. They do kind of hold up well because it's like you're watching like the Wild Bunches. Take that, you're watching that and you're like, oh, this was made in like the late 60s. Like, what? This looks like something that, except for some of the special effects and maybe.
Well, I think that was like one of the first movies to have squibs, and that blew everybody's mind because,
okay.
In a Western, like, you cut the gunshot and then you cut to the guy going, ugh, and this time it's like, holy shit, that guy's chest is exploding.
Yeah, when did that one come out? That's definitely a record.
That's like
69, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's a great movie. I mean, it's like,
because I can't remember when like Bonnie and Clyde came out, because that was another like early squib movie.
Oh, we watched that too. I think it was like 74, 75. But yeah.
Well, if you liked what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, or you can go to verhoeveneffect.com, or you can take it to the same spot. You can rate our podcast, whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. We have listener support at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect. You can sponsor us at a monthly stipend of 99 cents, 49, or $9.99. You can also find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factor. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. And you can also get t-shirts from belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
I'm Nathan.